Hey, what's the deal, YouTube? It's your girl, Miss Honey. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back. Oh, gather, little ones. Let mother tell you a story. Okay? We are here to do Lovecraft Country, which is a series, a 10 episode series on HBO. And I've been kind of following it a little bit, the conversation, like a little bit about it on Twitter. And my interest was piqued right away when I first saw the trailer, and then I saw some blurbs about who was doing some of the directing, and some things welled up in me because if you have been following MizHoney, if you remember MizHoney back from when I used to do underground, y'all know when we used to do underground, baby, we would eat. Okay, we would sup. Okay, we talking about hour-long reviews, baby. I got thousands of views. Everybody loved underground. They loved the fact that I was in love with it and did my reviews the way that I did them. And I'm getting that same feeling here now with Lovecraft Country. Lovecraft Country is going to be a cult classic. It is going to be a cult favorite. I'm telling you that. It kind of puts you in the mind of Twilight Zone, of War of the Worlds, like the old version of War of the Worlds, the original War of the Worlds. But I wanted to review it. Especially when I found out that Jordan Peele and Misha Green were the creators. Now, mind you, I know y'all know who Jordan Peele is, okay, because he did Us and Get Out, and we know him from Key and Peele and Mad TV. And he also wrote the first season of the 2020 or 2019 version of Twilight Zone, which is a CBS show. But Misha Green, huh? I know y'all don't remember Misha Green, do you? Yeah, Misha Green was one of the writers for Underground. So let's do what we do now. Let's break it on down. Now, this is called Lovecraft Country, and this episode is called Sundown. Now, let's talk a little bit about it. Lovecraft Country is actually a retold story or a reworked story. H.P. Lovecraft originally wrote novels, science fiction and horror novels. Really, really amazing work. The only issue is that H.P. Lovecraft was a deep-rooted racist. So while he had some fantastic imagination when it comes to horror and time and space and science fiction type things, magical creatures and otherworldly things, he was a racist to his core. Even wrote a poem which had some of the most, anyway. So then this guy comes along, I think in like 2016, 2010. Matt Ruff is his name, and he re-envisioned H.P. Lovecraft's story, but he incorporated African Americans as the heroes. And he sort of spent that thing around and told it from this perspective of Black people are the heroes. This HBO remake is a remake of Mike Ruff's 2016 or 2010 reinterpretation of the work that Lovecraft did. And so that is why it's called Lovecraft Country, okay? It's still horror, it's still sci-fi, but we're in the middle of the 1950s Jim Crow America. First, let's talk about Atticus. Atticus has come home. He fought in the Korean War, okay? And when the scene opens, it opens in the middle of war. All the things of war, honey. There are bombs going off. There's screaming. There's chaos. He is fighting and stabbing, and people are screaming, and his bombs going off, and the sky is all lit up, and we don't know what's going on. But in the middle of it all, he gets to the top of the hill. You know, he is killed and fought his way up there, and he gets up there to the top of the hill, and the sky is lit up with what looks like bomb bursts. But then we see this creature with wings like a dragon, but tentacles like an octopus soaring through, you know, whoosh, whoosh, wings flapping, and it's making this type of noise. It's almost like slow motion. You're like, what is going on? Then we see spaceships descend, and these halo-like lights underneath them, and it opens up, and down floats a woman who is, at first glance, looks like she's painted red. She's all red, and she walks up kind of lovingly to Atticus. He's just standing there enamored, just looking like, I was just in war. Now what is happening here? War is still going on, but all of this fantastical science fiction is happening in the air. And she lowers herself and she walks towards him and puts her arms out like a siren, and she hugs him. And in this moment we see that it looked like paint, but it's skin, and we can see her veins coursing and pulsating underneath the skin. And as she leans in to say something, it's something very heinous. And in this moment, Atticus wakes up. He's on a bus. He dreaming. But baby, when I tell you my mouth was salivating, ooh, it was salivating. Oh, give me a good monster and a good story any day now. Okay, so he on a bus, and when he wake up, he had a book on his chest, and he comes to, and it's a black woman on the other side, on the other side of the aisle from him. And they have a little conversation, and she kind of laughs a little bit and little quips, and the camera pans to the front of the bus, and we see a sign right in the middle that said whites on this side, blacks on this side. And so we're seeing now that, okay, we're back present day, but present day is really 1950s, right? He on his way back to Chicago. And so the bus breaks down, and we see Atticus sitting on the side of the road on his suitcase, and we hear the bus driver say, all right, now this substitute vehicle here is going to take you all into town, so y'all can catch another bus from there. And Atticus is looking, and he's not, he doesn't have a strange look on his face per se. He is anticipating. So it's really kind of blank, the look, and I wasn't sure what it was until he stood up, and then he walked a little bit forward. He saw the guy that was driving the vehicle, that the truck. It was a flatbed truck with a gate around it that was going to take the people to town. Now, he was waiting to see if they were going to take all the people into town, or if they were just going to take the white people into town, right? He sees a black woman get off the bus, and she goes around all of these Caucasians, and she's going to get her bag out, her suitcases off the bus. And he goes immediately to help her, because he realized it's just the two of them. They not going to be able to get on the back of this truck with the white people, and they got to walk the rest of the way. And so the next scene we see is them walking, and he's carrying her suitcase, and he's got his own knapsack, his army knapsack bag on his back. And they talking, and she, I mean, I'm sure they were infuriated. I'm sure that they were upset, but it is what it is. So she asks him, "So what's in that book you've been reading?" And he tells her that it's science fiction and he loves science fiction. And she was like, she was like, "I don't know how you can read that with all that, racist rhetoric in it." And he said, "Well, I look over that because I'm here for the science fiction portion of it." And she said that still don't make it, don't make the wrong that he do right, and it's a moment. So then we cut to George, Hippolyta, and Diana. And George Black owns a bookstore there in the black part of the area that they live in Chicago. And apparently he and Hippolyta are madly, hopelessly in love, and he writes a travel journal, and it's called the Black Travel Guide. And basically what this book does is he and his wife travel, and other people travel, and they come and they bring back information about places that you can go while you're traveling where you won't be harmed, places where you can use the bathroom, places where you can get a shower, places where you can eat, places where you can sleep. Just tells you every little bit thing about getting from point A to point B along the way. And oftentimes he himself, George, makes the journey himself, and he notes all of the places as he goes, and he adds it to the journal, adds it to the travel guide. And something happened on one occasion where he had gone, and the police caught him, traveling, being black, and they busted both of his kneecaps out. So he's moving, but the knees still give him trouble. And we see where him and Hippolyta are waking up, and he wants to go back out, and she says, "Why don't you let me go out this time?" And he's like, "Are you serious?" And we don't know why until later that he doesn't really want her to go out, outside of the fact that she's a woman. But in the living room, they decide they're going to have a little daytime snuggling. And in the living room is Diana, their daughter. Now listen, Diana is a girl after my own heart. She is creative. She is smart. Her daddy's in the books and owns a bookstore. Her mother is sassy and savvy and loving, and she's both of them put together. We see her, she's drawing a little bit and sketching a little bit. We're not really sure what her role is yet, until she gets up disgusted because she can hear her mom and dad. And she goes into the kitchen and screams because Tick is coming up so he's coming in through the fire escape, and she screams, and her daddy runs out, and it's Tick. She glad to see Tick, and hugs him and loves on him, and so does Hippolyta. And it's a lovely, lovely moment. Well, we also get to see where Atticus, initially when he was walking with the lady that was on the bus with him, he told her what was bringing him back to Chicago, which was his daddy has gone missing. And so ultimately this is the reason why he's back in Chicago, is because his daddy has gone missing. Now, it is not lost on me that Jonathan Majors is an absolutely gorgeous black man. He is absolutely magnificent. I mean, the lips alone. And very physically fit and very good looking, right? But as he's going through the town, when he leaves George and Hippolyta's, everybody is not necessarily recognizing him per se, because apparently when he left, he had Coke bottle glasses, and he was a square little nerd, right? But he has returned with no glasses and fine. Still a nerd. He's still a nerd, but fine. Okay. Now, before he leaves George and Hippolyta's, he learns a little bit about his father. He learns that his father's been gone for a few weeks now. He learns that how George found out was because the landlord came by and wanting to rent for his daddy's apartment. And so they hold in his daddy's apartment, and this is where Tick is going to go and stay. But first, he is on the move, right? He wants to go and talk to the dude down at the local bar because his daddy liked the sauce. So he's tracking his daddy down. This is the first thing he do when he get there. He stop by George and Hippolyta's and hug his little cousin and visit with them for a minute. And then he is on his way to discover where his father is, like ask around and get some idea. So he goes into this bar, and there is this really, really tall guy there. And I think his name is Tree. His nickname is Tree. And he says, we closed. Tick, is that you? Hey. Tick ain't got nothing for him. Now, I don't know what happened between the two of them when they were children, but Tick still ain't got nothing for him right now. He wants to know where the guy with the glasses that owned this bar. Tree tells him he out back. He goes out back and discovers that the man is out back there with somebody giving him a little oral pleasure. Guy runs off. Yeah, it's a guy. This 1950s. And the owner, who is a guy, is out back getting oral pleasure from another guy. And the guy runs off. And when Tick walked up, he said, "Oh, excuse me. Excuse me." He heads on back inside. And the owner say, "Ain't you Melrose boy?" "Yeah. I remember many a day you coming in here and dragging your father off my bar stool. Well, his behind ain't been on my bar stool in a few weeks now. He was in here a few weeks back. He left with a white man." It was like, "A white man?" He's like, "Yeah. And a fancy car too." "A fancy car?" "Well, he left in a fancy car." And Tree said that it must have belonged to a white man because it was so fancy. It was long and silver and shiny. This is another clue. Prior to Atticus going down to the bar to check after his father, he goes down to his Uncle George's bookstore, and they're talking about Atticus' dad, Melrose, and he tells him, "This is why I'm here. I'm here looking for my father. I need to find him." The whole time, even though he absolutely hated that Atticus went off to war, went into the service, he never ever wrote him. The one letter he did write him was the letter that Atticus had folded up near and dear and in his books. And the letter is what made him come home. The letter is what made him return back to Chicago, because once he found out his dad was missing, and referencing back to that letter, it was kind of ominous. And so his uncle, who is a little trepidatious about it when he says that his dad told him something about a secret birthright, and he kind of walks off a little bit from Atticus. He's got his back to Atticus, but he's facing the camera. He's facing us. And so we can see his face while Atticus is talking. And Atticus says something about his dad mentioned tracking down his mom's people, Atticus' mom's people. And when he said that, George's eyes fell. Like, I wasn't sure what that meant. And then he went on, started talking about his dad referencing the secret birthright. And he read the letter to George. And George, George felt like Atticus, that Melrose would be back. Atticus' daddy would be back. And there was something that Atticus didn't have to worry about. But Atticus, he knew it was something more going on there. And coupled with the fact that his daddy never ever wrote him, never ever sent him one single letter except this letter. And this is what he's talking about. And now he is missing. And Atticus is an avid sci-fi fan, horror fan, right? And so all of this sort of plays into his wheelhouse of who he is. So then, of course, he goes down to the bar and he discovers this information about his daddy in the long, shiny silver car that had to have been driven by a Caucasian man. And then we go to a juke joint, baby, and this is beautiful woman, African American woman up there singing, and singing, and the crowd is all riled up. She's got the prettiest purple dress on and a beautiful half band of flowers here, purple flowers, sort of framing her face. Really a beautiful scene. And we see where Journey Smollett's character, Lydia, comes across the parking lot and comes inside. And as the singer is ending her song, she said, well, I can do one more song before Sweet Willie comes out here to do his set. What would y'all like me to sing? And Lydia yells out something about rock a baby, shake it, bye, baby, something like that. And everybody look over and she see that it's her sister, Lydia. And she was like, what makes you drop in all surprised? And the crowd want Lydia to sing with her. So they get up there and sing. Now, Lydia's sister, whose name escapes me right now, is a beautiful brown-skinned woman. But Lydia, played by Journey Smollett Bell, is a fairer skin. So there's something there. Well, later on, after they do they set and they sing and all that, which they go outside. Lydia and her sister go outside, and her sister is a little bit hostile. But really, she's just being honest and she's just being frank. Why are you back here? I know you want some money. I already gave you some money. She was like, no, I don't want any money. Why do you always think I want money? Because you always want money. You disappear when you show up, you want something. And she said, well, I could use a place to stay for a couple of days. She gonna try to get her a job down in downtown in the retail sector. And her sister telling, you can get a job up there cleaning houses. She said, I ain't cleaning no houses. Right? So you think you can get a job in a department store? Yes, I do. And Lydia looks like she could be 23, 24. Like she is in a place in her life where she could be graduating college, right? My sister say, you can stay with me for 2 days tops, but after that you got to go. Well, how am I going to find a job within 2 days? And she said, well, I can get me a good job and we can get us a house maybe. And we can, because where the girl's staying, she's saying Lydia's saying it's a old rundown place. So here's what we're learning in this whole situation. We're learning that Lydia is a bit of a free spirit. She's a spitfire. She's obviously a very beautiful woman. She's going out there and she's living her life. She's also a bit of a militant. She is not down with this colored only, whites only situation. A lot of the things that she's been doing out there, she's been doing in protest and that type of stuff. So we're learning a lot about her. At the same time, her sister has a problem with the only time she come around is when she wants something. It is clear that there is something very, very different about the two of them. And what I think the difference may be is that Lydia's daddy is probably a white man. We don't know yet. I'm just gathering. So she's considered kind of like the black sheep, maybe, of the family. So we get to see where Atticus comes down, and when when he comes down, he sees that the fire hydrant is shut down, and it's right in front of the club, and Hippolyta's there, everybody there just having a good time and enjoying themselves. Kids running around playing, it's like a neighborhood block party type situation. And that's why the bar was gonna be closed down because of the block party. That's what it was. And so Atticus decides he gonna pop that fire hydrant, right? He goes around there and turns it on, and everybody's screaming, and the kids is playing in the street, and he done took his shirt off, baby, and he running through there, and Lydia spots him while she arguing with her sister. Who is that? She say, that's Tick. Nerdy Tick? Skinny? Nerdy? Coke bottle glasses Tick? And she said, yeah. And she looking at Tick completely differently at this point. The next day, Tick tells his uncle that he's going to look for his daddy. And his uncle George say, I'm going to go with you. And Tick said, no, you don't have to do that. I don't want to put you out. He said, no, I'm going with you. He said, I was going out on the road anyway, because again, he writes the Black Traveler's Guide, right? And so he's going to go out anyway. And this way he gets to add some more pages, some more places to the Black Traveler's Guide. Him and George are sitting upstairs the next day, and they're sort of, prepping, mapping out on the atlas where they're going to go. And they've noticed where Diana, George's daughter, has been drawn on the atlas, and she does it. And Tick instantly knows what she's drawing. Now, it's my opinion that Diana is a seer. Okay, because even though she's familiar with the creatures in the Lovecraft novels, because she loves comics and she loves reading and she loves sci-fi too, and she sort of likes making up these comic series and heroine creatures and fantastical modes of transportation. She's got a huge imagination. Now, something tells me her imagination is grounded somewhere. Now, we call it imagination, and some people call it a gift, and it is not until later that we realize that Diana is really a seer. So all along this map, she has drawn a castle. She has drawn a creature, beautifully drawn. So it's kind of like a landmark or a legend on the map of creatures and of castles, of places, of people, of things that they should find along the way, and that she's just drawing on the map for fun. It is not until Tick looks at it and realizes some of the things that she's drawn are creatures from the Lovecraft book. So they go down to load the car up. They're gonna get on the way, and he see this fine woman putting stuff in the back of the Woody. He walked up to her. She was like, you just gonna stand there and look at me, Tick, or are you gonna help me put my stuff in? And Uncle George is walking out, and he said, she going with us? George said, yes, she is going to be of some help to us, and she's got a stop along the way. She's riding with us part way. Okay, that's fine. Hippolyta come out, and she got a checklist. Now, all of this goes into the Black Traveler's Guide. Hippolyta and George have a passion for this thing, so they've also created a checklist of all the things you need: road flares, jack, spare tire, food for the trip, their atlas, as well as the map, flashlights, all of these things that you need along this trip, because you won't just be able to stop and run into a store or just knock on somebody's door and say, hey, can I, borrow your, or can you help me? Because all of these things can get a black person killed. This guide is very extensive. And so they do the checklist, and they do this little thing that they do every time where they ask for reading materials, which Atticus had because he's an avid reader, but also they need their travel comic. And their daughter Diane was like, y'all don't have to do this every time. He was like, no, we can't make this trip without our travel comic. So every time they go make a trip, she writes out a comic, a little comic strip, and it looks like a little book, and it's on notebook paper, and it's all drawn out and everything. And on the back is an advertisement for the Black Traveler's Guide. It's all quite lovely, quite lovely. And she changed the name of the heroine character to or the I guess the hero character to a heroine. And so it must be customary for, as he travels, he will read over it, and then when he gets somewhere for lodging, he'll call her and she'll tell him a little bit about the comic strip. So just make a note of that, right? And I forgot to tell you guys that when they left the block party, everybody's laughing and singing, and the fire hydrant is going off, and it is wonderful. And in the alleyway, in the shadows, backed in, is a shiny silver fancy car. So George, Atticus, and Lydia get on the road, and it's all great. They're traveling along. They've stopped a couple of times just on the side of the road to have a little something to eat, to look at their map. Ultimately, where they're trying to get is a place called Ardham. When Melrose, Atticus' dad, wrote it, he wrote Arkham. And so it didn't really make sense to Atticus, but because his uncle is also an avid reader, he realized he meant Ardham, not Arkham. And he was like, I think I've heard of somebody made reference to a place called Ardham, he said, somewhere. And this was back when they were in the bookstore. So ultimately, this is where they're going. They're going to sort of find this Ardham place, and they're hoping that Melrose, Atticus' daddy, and George's brother will be there. So they get on the road, and it, like I said, everything is Gucci, everything is gravy, and in the guide, there is a place called Summersville. And in Summersville, there's a place called Lydia's where they can get a hot meal. They can sit down and get a hot meal like decent people, and they don't have to sneak and dip and dive. And it's a little bit out of the way, but Lydia wants a hot meal. Let's do it. So they get into the town. He said it's supposed to be a brick building at the end of the road. He said coming through the town, and people are looking at him like, what is you doing around here? Caucasians. And Uncle say, I think this is it right here. End of the road right here. Brick building. It just had a little brick at the top, and the rest of the building was white. This must be it. They go inside, the three of them. And Lydia, like I said, she ain't with it. She already done did some protesting, and she got on some shades. And she walked through, baby, with a little pair of pink pencil pants on and a little crop top. And she sees some white ladies, and she tip them shades down and look at them like, can I help you? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, she's a rebel. She's a spitfire. Lydia, one of them people that will tell you can catch these hands, right? So they go on inside, and they sort of announce themselves. It's a white man sitting there, and it's a guy behind the counter, and they just dumbfounded, like two-headed monsters just walked into the place. George says we're just here to have a meal, and nobody says anything. So he's like, okay, I guess we'll seat ourselves. And they sit right in the picture window. Okay, so everybody walking by can see him. Well, the white man from the Eddie County gets up and walks off, and he goes on out the door. And Atticus is like, let's just go. And the uncle is frustrated. He said, no, our money's just as good as anybody else's. and it spins as well. He said, "Can we get a couple of menus, please?" Guy, young guy behind the counter comes out. He's got on all white. He's got on that white apron, like they used to have in the ice cream shops, and an old white paper hat. And he comes around there and gives them the menu, and he still don't say nothing. And he said, "Well, we'll start out with a cup of coffees. Go ahead and get us a couple of coffees, right?" So he go to give him a couple of coffee. Look like he going to get him a couple of coffees, and Lydia is just like, "I don't know what is going on here, but I'm going to use the bathroom." And so she, on her way back to the bathroom, the boys sitting at the table and they talking. She on her way back to the bathroom, and she hear the clerk in the back calling somebody on the phone. And she tips up to the door and looks in there and sees him calling. And he's saying, "I know. They just walked in out of the blue. It's 3 of them. And just sat down. I swear I didn't serve them. I would never serve them, especially after what happened to Lydia." Now, she is hearing all of this conversation. The guys are back at the table. They're sitting down and chit-chatting. And Atticus notices that everything in the place is white. Painted white. And he asks his uncle, "Tell me again now why the White House is white." And the uncle don't think nothing of it. Well, it was back in the 1812, and he just starts reading it off. And Atticus knows what he's going to say. He's heard it all before. And at the same time that he's telling him about, they painted all the buildings white, including the floor, to cover over at the same time, Atticus puts his foot down on the floor and slides one of the boards forward. And at the same time that his uncle says, "Cover up the burn marks," Atticus says, "The burn marks." And he looks down where he has slid that board, and it's burn marks. Okay, that used to be Lydia's. That was an all brick building. Okay, a friendly place for black folks to go and sit down and have a meal. But they done killed Lydia and run her out of town, burnt her place down, re-established it, and painted it all white to cover up the burn marks, right? At the same time they both say burn mark, we hear Lydia scream, "Get your asses up and get the hell out of here!" And she running. I'm talking about she run right past them out the door and jump into the doggone Woody. And she bagged that joker up and she pulled right in front. So all they got to do is jump in. Now the number one rule has been that girls don't drive. Only the men drive. But Lydia's driving. Because she realized the dudes that saw them coming in when they came into town, the dude that was right there on the counter that got up and walked out, and now we hear police sirens. Oh, yeah, they all on their way back, baby. And it ain't going to be nothing nice, okay? And we don't need to be here when they get here. So they leap into the car. He was like, "No, I'm driving." She was like, "If you don't get your monkey donkey in here." And they jump in the car and she peel off. And this is when we find out that Lydia is multi-talented, baby. They didn't want her to drive, but baby, when I tell you she know how to drive that thing, she was whipping it through town. It's 3 dudes with shotguns. One is on the back of the truck. You know how they like to ride with their shotgun high on the back of the pickup. And it's police cars. And they are running, baby. When I tell you they 90 miles and running, they hauling it, trying to get out of there because they know they cannot get caught. Their only choice is to outrun these jokers. And that's what Lydia does. She outruns these jokers, right? I mean, George is like, "Turn left here, slow down, speed up, you gotta outrun them." And she is, I forget what she said, how it led to it, but he tell her, "Woman, slow down," or something, girl. She said, "I ain't no girl, I'm Lydia Mother Ducking Lewis." Oh, so they get on the straightaway. And these guys is shooting. They done shot the back window of the doggone Woody out. and swerving. And Atticus, he been in the military, he got a gun, so he started shooting back at them jokers. You got to get them off of you. And they still ducking and driving, and wind is blowing. Lydia's got like a short kind of curly hairdo, and it's just bouncing, baby. She driving, and she getting low, and oh, it was very exciting. So they getting a little bit closer. They gaining on them. And Uncle George is nervous. He done already had his knees busted out. And Atticus already know what to do, because he been to war. And black men treated bad, period. But in war, they definitely second, third, fourth, fifth class citizens. So he already know what it is. Everybody is terrified. Lydia know what it is. Everybody is terrified. And they driving along, and they come to this place where they're tearing down the road, and there is a crossroad where a person would come and then join that main road. And you see it a lot of times in old time movie, where you will see the person coming on the crossroad and down your road, and at some point they're gonna meet. And the people are behind them, and they're gaining on them. They're gaining on them, and as soon as they pass that cross street, that car pulls out. Guess what? It is a silver, shiny, fancy car. It pulls just behind Lydia and George and Atticus, and it in front of the white men in the black pickup truck. And somehow, some way, they turn their car. The silver, shiny, fancy car turns, and the black truck, just seemingly out of the blue, seemingly from nowhere, it didn't hit the silver, shiny car. It flips over the silver, shiny, fancy car. The guy on the back falls out onto his head, dead. Boop. The guys in the truck fall on the roof of the truck and kind of turn. It's all mangled, and they laid out underneath it, all dead. And it's triumphant, because they don't get to kill no black folks today. And listen, Lydia and George and Atticus didn't stop to say thank you so much for blocking that truck. They was like, I don't know what the heck is going on, but we got to get up out of here. So then we get to see where they have made it to Lydia's brother's house. And when they get there, it seems all pleasant. They're having something to eat and talking. And her brother has been keeping a journal, if you will, of people that have gone missing, like a woman that owned the restaurant that they went into, her disappearance, and other people around the town and their disappearance. He also has a picture of the sheriff, and that's over the town, and a little write-up on him. So there's some talk about something that happened there on that land back in like the early 1800s, where Atticus was like, so they was witches? And he says, no, they weren't witches. They were witch hunters. They were witch hunters that were traveling, but they sort of stopped in this place. And they're talking about Ardham. I'm realizing now that they're talking about Ardham. Have dinner. George calls Diana, and Diana tells him a little bit about why she did the travel comic, and about the heroine, and what the heroine drove, and what type of spaceship she had. And weirdly enough, the spaceship she had was silver and shiny and fancy. Are you with me? Okay. So he gets off the phone, and he goes outside, and Atticus is standing out there looking at the moonlight, and George walks up, and Lydia is inside with her brother, and they fighting. Well, her mama died, and that's why her sister had to move out of the nice apartment she was in, and had to move to this sort of not so nice apartment. And we find out that Lydia did not come to the funeral. And we find out that Lydia was supposed to come to the funeral because her brother sent her the money to come to the funeral. And that's why she said she needed the money, was to come home to go to the mama's funeral, but she never came. She actually spent the money to bail out some people that was protesting with her, who got arrested. So she used that money to bail them out of jail. And he's just sick of it. He's had it. He and her sister, they're sick of the fact that she's just been out here sort of being radical and militant and living her life. And she kind of looks down on the fact that they're all hardworking, go along to get along citizens. And she don't want that lifestyle. And she basically had a problem with their mama. Probably because their mama had a problem with her. Probably because Lydia was a product of maybe her mom being violated, being sexually violated. And a lot of times when you find that the mother, every time they look at the child, they feel a type of way, and that sort of thing. Because Lydia's brother is brown skinned just like her sister. So Lydia's the only one that kind of sticks out. The argument gets really bad, and Atticus wants to go inside, and George stops him and tells him that it's family business. Now, meanwhile, Atticus is having a moment, because even though he's looking for his daddy, we find out that he had an issue with his father. That his father was very, very hard on him. And George says, cut him some slack. He was coming up. Melrose was the youngest, and he took the brunt of it. Abused his children. Why you always taking up for him? Why you always taking up for him, I don't understand that. I'm trying to tell you something. He said, well, if I take up for him, it's because he was smaller, and he needed to be rescued. He needed to be saved. And Atticus said, I was smaller too, and I needed to be saved too. So Melrose, Atticus' daddy, was doing the same thing to Atticus, abusing him the same way that he was abused. And George never came for him. George never saved him. Atticus just had it. He decides to walk off, and cool off. And George just broke. Because here it is, in his face. The fact that you defend Melrose, your brother, but Melrose was doing the same thing to me, and you never defended me. You never came for me. You never pulled me out of it. It was a moment. Your brother told her she can't stay there another night. They had to leave. And so the next day they packing the car up. She mad as a bag of rattlesnakes. They load on up and move on out. The information that Atticus had that was telling him how to get to Ardham. Ardham seemed like a small town. Ardham seemed like a little known town. Although it wasn't on any maps, it seemed like by the coordinates that he had, the information that he had, it was in the middle of nowhere. And the instructions that he had said something about you go over a covered bridge, and there will be a road off to the side, and that's where you will find it. But they done drove up and down this stretch of road, and they don't see a covered bridge. They don't see a road that is grown over, and they kind of getting frustrated and upset. And he gets out of the car because he's mad with George for going on and on and on. He doesn't want to give up. He doesn't want to stop looking. Well, he get out the car and walk ahead a little bit and looking around, just trying to figure out, like, which way do we go? Which way do we go? And Lydia gets out, and he wants to know what she wants. She said, I'm coming to help you because it's about to be sundown, and we don't need to be out here on this stretch of road when the sun go down. And so, it kind of disarms him a little bit, and he relaxes a little bit, and they kind of chit-chat and talking. George in the woody like this, child, he is over it. At the same time, in the distance, maybe like by this time, a mile away, we see old-fashioned police car roll up. The ones with the lights on the top. Roll up real slow, creeping real slow, like, and they so busy kind of laughing and talking and just taking a moment. And George is in the car like this. And just as she laughs and turns, she notices it's a police car. Now, they don't run to get in the car. They don't even move really. And George sees it in the rear view, and he sits up straight. He knows it's gonna be trouble, right? The guy doesn't pull right up to him. He stops some feet back, and he tells the get your A out of the car. George does it. He gets out, and they all stand there, and they said, "What are you doing around here?" "Well, we just passing through. Stopped for a minute to use the bathroom." He said, "Well, you better be glad. You know what Sundown is, or Sundown Town is." And George says, "Yes, sir. We know what it is. You best be glad I didn't catch you peeing in my wood like a common animal after sundown. Else I'd had to hang all three of y'all." Now, he don't ask for no ID. He don't ask for no they names, none of that. The fact that they black is the reason why he stopped, and it's gonna be the reason why he hanged them too. Now, when Lydia and Atticus was on the side of the road laughing, she asked him what he was looking for, and he said he was looking for shogoffs. And she said, "What's a shogoff?" It's a multi-eyed creature, is what he said. It's something he read in one of the Lovecraft books, and that's what they was laughing at. So now that they faced with this sheriff, the same sheriff that Lydia's brother had a picture of in his journal, this is that sheriff, right? Atticus, he's been off the war and all of that. He, like Lydia, he's got a little rebellious side to him, this sort of fight back side to him. But he's trying to hold it in the road as much as he can. The guy say sun go down at 7:09. Okay, and if I catch you in this county at 7:09, they said, "Well, we're gonna be on our way and we're gonna get on out of this town before sundown." He said, "If you headed that way, I doubt it." And George said, "Well, that's fine. We'll go north. We'll go north." And the guy said, "It's doable. It's doable." And he said, "You ain't gonna make it out of here unless you speed. And if you speed, I'm gonna pull you over and hang you." So he's letting them know, and under no certain terms, that he plans to let them out of that town. Anything they do trying to get out of there, including being there 1 minute after 7:09, is gonna get them hung. And the only way that they got a few minutes. I think they got 9 minutes to beat the sun going down in that county. And Atticus said, the only way I'm gonna be able to go back that way is to make a U-turn. And if I make a U-turn, you're gonna will you give me a ticket? And the sheriff said, "Oh, okay. You smart, huh? You bright, huh? Okay." He said, "Well, normally I would give you a ticket for that. Yeah, you real bright to catch that." He said, "But I'll let you go if you ask me real nice. I'll let you go." And he said, "Please, may I make a U-turn?" And the guy said, No, that you can do better than that." He said, "Say, pretty please, can a smart arse nigga like me, a boy like me, one of them, it was horrible either way, make this U-turn?" And Atticus swallows. Lydia looks down, because to look at him is gonna make it worse. She knows that he feels humiliated. She knows that he feels ashamed. At the same time, she just want him to do it and let's go. And George is the same way. They can understand how humiliating this is. So he says it. He said, "Yeah, you are a smart boy, aren't you?" And Atticus gets on in there, makes that U-turn, and he on the road. Now, he allows them to get a couple of miles ahead of him before we see his car approaching. So he's going to follow them to the county line. And they can't speed, because if you pull them over, he going to hang them. Okay? But they trying to hurry. And so everybody is nervous. Everybody is like slow, slow, slow. It's a very tense moment. It's one of these situations where you're in a hurry. Like you feel the urgency of the situation. At the same time, you got to be controlled, because if you go 1 mile over the speed limit, he gonna hit them lights. He gonna pull you over, and he gonna hang everybody in that car. And Atticus knows that he's driving. The pressure is on. Lydia's kind of losing it in the back a little bit, because you never seem like you're moving slower than when you have to get somewhere fast. You know what I mean? And it's a very tense moment in that car. The sheriff catches up with them, and he rams his car into the back of their car. And Lydia's like, that SOB? You know, he's trying to keep them from leaving. They're following the speed limit. All of this, as far as he's concerned, is because Atticus is a smart aleck. He's a smart Negro, and he can't have that, right? So now he's gonna harass them and get them to make a mistake, or get them to speed up, and he gonna hit them lights, and he gonna hang them, right? And so he rams them again, and Atticus is just about to lose it. I mean, he is still controlled, but you can see the pressure is on. She's like, how many minutes? You know, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. And at the same time, over the hood of the car, in the sky, we can see the sun. Top of the tree line, we can see it falling just below the tree line. And it's just 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds. And they pass the sign that say you live in such and such county, right? And so they get through that, and now it's that dusk time. The sun has fallen, and it's dusk. And it's just in this new town, as they pass over the ridge and come down, they see the road is blocked by 2 more police cars. What they really done is sort of corral them. They had no intentions on letting them leave. They had every intentions on hanging them. They feel like they're foiled. By this time, the sun is down, and we see where Atticus and George and Lydia are being walked through the woods by 4 policemen, one of which is the sheriff, right? And so remember, people have gone missing. Remember that. Remember also, we're looking for Ardham. Okay, this town, this place, you know, where his dad might be. They are terrified. They are terrified. They know that there's only one reason why they are all being walked into a pitch black woods. And the police officer and the sheriffs got firearms, shotguns. And so they get them to sort of like a small clearing. They throw them all down on the ground, face down. And they say, oh, the town has been, houses in the town have been burglarized. That car probably isn't even yours. You probably stole it. And George is like, no, it's not. He said, how dare you talk back? You think I'm going to believe that if you tell me you didn't steal a car, you think I'm going to actually believe it? And so Atticus is logical. Atticus says, no, sir, no. You please feel free to check the car, and you will see that there's no stolen items in it. And he takes that shotgun and puts it right in the back of Atticus' head. Pushes that head down with the barrel of that shotgun. Oh, I bet that is terrifying. Just to feel that barrel on your head like that. So you think I would actually go to your car and check it? Because it don't matter. It don't matter if it ain't stolen. First of all, I'm making all of this ish up. Okay? It's an intense moment where Lydia is saying, please don't shoot him. Please don't shoot him. And George is saying, wait a minute, please, officer, I can explain. Officer, please. And Atticus is like, don't shoot me. And at the same time, we hear this in the woods. And the police officers look around. Okay, and then you hear more limbs breaking and cracking, and then there's some movement in the woods, and you can tell by the movement that whatever is moving is heavy. It's not like a bird flying or a bat or a cat or something like that. Whatever it is that's in these woods is heavy, right? It's large. Okay, these are tree limbs that are breaking, right? And Atticus, George, and Lydia flat on the ground, face down, head, and they dare not look back. The police officers are looking, and out of nowhere, something comes through the scene, and the sheriff, the one that was in the Marines, the one that's in Lydia's brother's journal, arm falls down, falls on the ground right in front of George's face, holding a flashlight. Okay, screams. One of the other dudes, it's four of them now. One of the other dudes that was standing there next to the sheriff, okay, he gets his whole head, upper body, torso, by something ripped off, and by this time, Atticus says, "Run!" And so everybody tried to run at once. Lydia and Atticus and George and the sheriffs. And when they do, they knock George down. Well, George can't run because he had both of his knees busted out by a sheriff. So he can't run. Now he can get along, but he can't run like they was tearing through the woods. And so he lays there on the ground where he falls. And where he falls is right in front of this arm, this detached arm with a flashlight. Okay, and he just stays. When he falls, he freezes. Okay, he's old school. You know what I'm saying? At this point, he got to be invisible. And so they running through the woods. Atticus and Lydia tearing through the woods, tearing through the woods. And the police officers are chasing them. The sheriffs are chasing them. And they running away, but they also chasing them. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of a metaphor. Now, you need to be saving your own life. You definitely need to be saving your own life. You need to take these shotguns and shoot whatever this is, even though they are terrified. Everybody is covered in blood. It's in their hair, it's on their clothes, it's in their face, it's on their neck. I mean, it looks like a horror scene. It is complete and utter chaos. Plus, it is pitch dark black. Without the flashlights, there is no light. It's so thick and wooded, there's even no moonlight coming in. You know, moonlight is, you usually see moonlight in clearings and stuff like that, or just beaming through the trees lightly. But for the most part, there's no light. Nothing. So they running in the pitch black, except for the flashlights of the police officers that are running behind them. Wait, stop! You better stop! Freeze! Now, the two police officers is the sheriff. One, he don't have an arm no more, and his buddy, the only one that's left. Right. So two dead. It was three that ran off, but one of the creatures caught him. Okay, and took his torso off. So now it's two of them chasing and running. And so they get to this place where the ground drops off into a ravine. And so Atticus and Lydia drop off into this ravine, and they are scrambling, and they climb up out of that joker on the other side and start running. And the police officers are like, "I'm coming down, wait on us." And they was like, "I don't have no idea what you're talking about, sir." And so they run and they find this house. It's abandoned house, and they go inside, and everything they can do to get the furniture up to the door and block it. They holding the door too, and so you hear the sheriffs. They done caught up to him, and they knocking on the door. Let us in. Open this goddamn door right now. Yeah, you still trying to be supreme. You still trying to be the ruler over us, even though we all gonna die. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though we are all in danger, right? And so they take a shotgun, whoosh, and shoot through the door. And so Atticus and Lydia have no choice. They open the door, and they run in. The two white sheriffs run in, and they get to the furthest corner of the room, and then order Atticus and Lydia to get that furniture in front of that door. Block that door right now. Now, they got a gun on them. forcing them to do what they want them to do, even though one of them don't have a doggone arm, and they terrified. Everybody is terrified, right? And so Atticus want to leave. Atticus want to go out because he realized George is not there. George has not been running behind them this whole time, and he doesn't know where his Uncle George is. And so it's a completely terrifying moment. So they put the gun on Atticus, and they tell him he better not open that door. You best not open that door. And so Atticus starts to think, and while he's thinking and trying to work it out in this abandoned cabin, he sees, we get to see George. And George is just laying there. He gets up and grabs the flashlight out of the detached hand and tries to find his way. And as he's walking through and trying to find his way and trying to see where he need to go and what's going on, he shines the light, hears a noise, and he lifts up the flashlight and shines the light, and it's this creature with all these different eyes, many eyes, all of them blinking individually and separately from each other. It's a Shoggoth. Okay, this is the creature that Atticus was kidding with Lydia about before the sheriff stopped them. Okay, before sundown. It's a Shoggoth. Okay, and all we know is it's a multi-eyed creature, and now we know it has many razor sharp teeth. And then we see George come up to the cabin, and Atticus, who is looking out for him out the window looking for him, sees him and says, "That's George," and lets George in. And when George gets in there, he's able to help them sort of figure out what's going on, which is the fact that he noticed when he saw the creature that he shined the flashlight on him and the creature ran off. So that's why George didn't get eaten. Now, y'all know what I was thinking. Y'all know I was thinking that the creatures was only eating the Caucasian people. I thought. But that's not what it is. It's light. Light runs them off, kind of like a vampire, right? And Atticus and George kind of figure all this out for themselves. Meanwhile, the white sheriffs are in the corner, and they are frightened, and they are scared, and they are afraid. And all they know to do is to order the black people about. Now, they got the shotgun. The one with two arms got a shotgun on him. And so when they tell him, he tells them about the creature in the light, he says, let me get that flashlight from you. Let me get that flashlight from you. And so Lydia remembers that they got flashlights and flares and some things in the car from their checklist. And Atticus is going to go, and he's gonna go to the car. Well, they got the gun on the white sheriffs, and they say, y'all ain't going nowhere. You ain't going nowhere, because your smart A will leave us here. And so they say, let her go. And she is beside herself. I mean, this whole time we have not heard anything from Lydia but this running and this booking it. And now she, although frightened, it's out of the blue. It's 1950s, and while they're used to white men hanging and killing and raping and pillage, they ain't never seen nothing like a Shoggoth. She ain't never seen nothing like a Shoggoth before. And so Atticus realizes she's going to have to be the one to go to the car. And so he tells her, he says, listen, you can do this. Okay? You're going to go out. You're going to run. And he had already asked the white sheriffs where's the car. And the guy says, if you go back behind this cabin and walk, 40 feet or 50 feet or something, you'll find it there on the road. Kitty is shaking, and she is so nervous. She's like, I don't think I can do it. I'm so scared. She said, why aren't you scared? Why aren't you frightened? And he said, fear is not going to do me any good right now. Fear serves me no purpose right now. A learning moment, right? I got it. I got what he was saying. I got to be clear-headed. I got to be clear-headed. I got a demon inside in here with me, and God knows what out there. Okay, I got to be clear-headed. If we gonna get out of this, if we gonna survive, we cannot let fear rule us. And I get it. I understand that. It's a moment for Lydia. She's able to buck up a little bit. So she goes out. He said, run fast as you can and don't look back. And she hauls it, baby. When I tell you she booked it through them woods and ducking and dodging, got through there. And they own them. They in the trees and in the woods. They coming. And she just barely gets to the car and gets inside and closes the door. And it's one right in front, and this we get to see it now. It's got a old round head. It looked like a giant worm with arms, a giant fat worm with muscular arms and claws and feet. Not many. It looked like 2 arms and 2 legs, but they like claws. But the body is kind of muscular, but it's all the head and the neck part is kind of worm like, and it opens its mouth from the center. 2 little bitty eyes, and it opens its mouth from the center, and it's rows and rows and rows of razor sharp teeth. And so when it opens its jaw and we see these rows of razor sharp teeth, out of the belly of the thing comes like tentacles, another creature living deep down inside of it. Ooh. And these pitch dark woods, they got to be terrified, because MizHoney is terrified. When she hit the lights on the wood, and it runs off. Now, it's another one on the back of her now. The lights are pointed forward. It's one that's got on the back on the hood of the woody. And she turns that joker on and floors it. And she tears through them woods. She got them on her back. They chasing her down. While Lydia had gone to the car and went through the ordeal that she went through, we noticed that the sheriff, the one that was a Marine, the one that stopped them, the one that kept telling them he was going to hang them no matter what they did, the one with one arm, he is coughing. And he's, growling, and it's almost like he can't breathe. It's almost like he's suffocating, or something is climbing out of his throat. And it comes to George. What happens when a vampire bites you, Atticus? Do you remember? And Atticus looks at the guy and says, you turn into a vampire. And the moment he says that, then we start to see the sheriff kind of start to turn into this worm-like monster, octopus inside the mouth kind of creature, rows and rows of teeth, and he's and Atticus and George are like, shoot him. He's telling his buddy, shoot him. You got to kill him now. He's going to be in here with us, and he's going to kill all of us. And the guy doesn't know what to do. He's so scared, frightened and afraid and all of this stuff. And I can't kill him. He's the sheriff. He's the head of the sheriff's department. And I can't kill him. This can't be happening. He's like, shoot him now. And as the guy comes into full form of this creature, and he devours his buddy. Bites his whole face off, blood everywhere. At the same time, he's now coming for George and for Atticus. And in that moment, Lydia drives straight through the cabin, baby. And Atticus grabs that gun as he's getting up and shoots him, kills him dead. They got flares. They popping flares around the back of the woody, where she has driven through. Around the back of it, they've come out and they've thrown the flares in sort of a crescent shape around the back of the car, and we're seeing it now from a high up point of view. The cabin, the trunk of the woody sticking out of this cabin, and this crescent of flare lights, and these creatures sort of hanging around the frays of the edges of the light, afraid to come into the light even more. And we see a creature up top up top in a tree above the cabin, about to approach them from the back where there is no light. Okay, and so these woods are full of these creatures. Okay, and so just as they've thrown their last flare and they've got the last little bit of light, and it's this moment where we're next. Like, these creatures are not just devouring racist Caucasians. They will eat anything, and that means us as well. We hear this whistle, this shrill whistle. So it wasn't like a, it was like a shrill, like the creatures stop and disappear. The one that was in the tree above the cabin looking down, gone. I mean, they turned and they left like lightning. Like, and so then we see Atticus and George and Lydia walking down the road. And they, the sun has come up. They've walked so far. They are bloody. They are raggedy. They are beaten. They not even talking. They don't even know how to make sense of what has just happened to them. And as they walk up a little bit more, they see they're coming to a covered bridge. And Atticus realizes that here is the covered bridge, and they go across the covered bridge and they turn down the road. And at some point when they turn down the road, there is thicket. The thicket ends and it arches. And then there's thicket on the other side of the arch. But in between the arches, you look and it is the castle. It's the castle that Diana has drawn on the map. Okay. I forgot to mention also that Summersville, the town that they went to, where I think it was Rita's Cafe or something like that they were going to sit down and have a hot meal. Lydia had put trolls, and she wrote a little synopsis that said, in this town there's trolls that with barking dogs and that pick their teeth with the bones of others. And that came true. The Shoggoths, she drew them in the woods. And so that was when he was referencing the Shoggoths from what Lydia had drawn. And now we see the castle that she had put there. And we see it. It's an actual castle, like in the middle. You should be able to see it from the street. It's so huge. It's like an old English castle, but it's like somebody just plopped it there like magic, right? And they walk up to the door of the cabin, covered in blood and weather beaten, and a white man with blonde hair and blue eyes says, "We've been expecting you. What took you so long?" Now, I forgot to tell you guys that when the silver shiny fancy car whipped out in front of that black truck that was chasing them from Summersville, that after the truck flipped over and all the men were killed, and they pulled off, it was a white woman that got out, and she was done up with a red lip, baby, that would give Gwen Stefani a run for her money. And the blondest eyes you've ever seen. I mean, the bluest eyes you've ever seen. And a little chapeau, right? Click to the side. I mean, it's 1950, so I mean, it looked like the whitest people you've ever seen with the bluest eyes you ever seen. But they helping them. They seem like they helping them. We don't know what's going on, but when we see this castle and they go to the door, it's a woman. The emblem that's on the door that's supposed to be the knocker looks like a woman, and I think it's the woman that that was on the road, or it might be they might be a coven of witches or witch hunters. I don't know what's going on. Like I said, it's the mix of the two genres. It is the mix of sort of this 1940s, 1950s, the time of Jim Crow, steeped in just complete utter racism. It's that climate, it's that time, but also it is mixed in with this horror and this sci-fi feel to it that it leads you to believe that anything is possible. So we're not just talking about Jim Crow and civil rights and all of that. We're not just dealing with that. We're talking about something on a supernatural level that sort of evening the playing fields, so to speak, in a time of racial injustice. And the episode goes off. Oh my gosh, you guys, it was so good. Have you seen Lovecraft Country? Did you see this flagship episode? Listen, it comes on at 9 p.m. on HBO. I hope you guys get an opportunity to see it. But if you don't get an opportunity to see it, if you don't have HBO and you're not fortunate enough to be able to get it, please come back and see me. I won't probably ever do the review on Sunday just because of how extensive. I mean, it's a lot of details. I was kind of afraid that I wouldn't be able to review it adequately, and then I thought, you know what, just do what you do. Just do what you do and do your edits and drop it out there and see how the people feel about it. It's so rich, you guys. The cinematography is done by several people, but one that stands out is Robert McLaughlin. Robert McLaughlin did the cinematography for Westworld and for Game of Thrones. Come on now. Beautiful scenery, beautiful setup. The series music is done by Raphael Sadiq. Okay, come on now. Raphael Sadiq and Laura Cartman. Jordan Peele is executive director of 9 episodes. We have Bill Carrero, who is a producer and director. Now, he did American History X and The Golden Compass. Have you seen The Golden Compass? Yeah. J.J. Abrams is the director, the senior director. Of course, he did Lost, he did 2 Star Wars, and he did Star Trek. And of course, Misha Green and Jordan Peele are the creators. They're the ones that took this book and brought it to the screen, and I'm having a great time. I'm enjoying myself. I'm enjoying seeing just a whole cavalcade of beautiful melanated people, different hues, different shades, different sizes, different walks of life, that type of thing, different lifestyles, all of that sort of being mixed in a way that is pleasing to the eye. It's musically current. It is visually stunning how they have it set up. Just sort of that 1950s feel. It's beautifully done. This is going to be a cult classic. I would love for you guys to watch it for yourselves just so you can get that feel and we can come back here and talk about it. But if you don't get that opportunity, check my reviews out. Like I said, I won't be doing them on Sundays when it airs because it's a lot. And I need to chew on it a little bit. So you will probably not get this review for Lovecraft Country until Tuesday or Wednesday, because I gotta watch it a couple of times so I don't make silly mistakes like I did in this review. And so we can get our rhythm going here, because it is going to be a lot going on. There's going to be so many more creatures. There's going to be, but the racial injustice and all of that stuff is going to be mixed in. It's going to be fantastical. You guys, tell me what you think about the show, about the review. Let me know about the sound. I did some adjustments that people have been complaining that they can't really hear. And so I'm just tweaking and just trying to get better, you guys. Please let me know. Put it down below. And until next time, honeybees. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Ah.